Good to know. All right. So Dallon, let's start just first at the top. When did you get into real estate?
2015, I got my license in 16. Started flipping. I worked. So when I got my license, I was like 23 or 4.
Okay.
I was 24, and I realized real quick that none of my friends could afford to buy a house. So I found developers that wanted to buy property to either houses to renovate or build. And so I started finding those properties for them, making commission on the front, and then listing them when they were done. And so fast forward 2 years from 2016, I thought, why am I not doing this myself? So then I started doing the same thing.
All right. So you have your real estate license. You're getting money on the what they call the front end, right, on the purchase.
Yeah.
And you're scoping properties. Where are you looking at homes for that stuff?
We were really heavy in East Nashville. A lot of the stuff off of like Rose Park and Meadow Rose and stuff. We were hitting those areas really, really hard. But now I've kind of blanketed Nashville. I mean, this year alone, I've done one in Madison, Creve Hall, Whispering Hills, Bordeaux, 12 South, couple other areas, just kind of all over the place.
That's this year. That's this year alone.
That's this year alone. Yeah, we've done. We've got 8 that I've finished or am doing, or they're on the market in Nashville so far. 4 in Chattanooga and 1 in Arkansas.
So yeah, so there's that going on. What'd you do today? So you decide you want to get into this because your friends can't buy houses. What's your next step in this? Do you get your GC license or outsource it? Or
I do not have my GC license. That's a shocker to a lot of people. I have crews.
Yep.
And I've got a guy that helps manage the crews that has his GC license.
Okay.
We work together on a lot of different things.
So you build under his license, as it's called.
Yep.
Okay. He pulls permits, things
Pulls
like
permits, does all that, is completely good with it.
Are you on partners together? I'm not
We are on all of our stuff in Chattanooga. So
Okay.
we also do apartments, new construction in Chattanooga, and we're partners on that stuff.
Cool. All right.
And so that's and 90% of houses, you got to pull permits. If it's going to be a rental, sometimes you're not pulling permits because you're coming in and putting some new cabinets in, and you're not opening stuff up. But most of the time, you're pulling permits. So
yeah, and we're going to talk more about
Yeah.
permits a little bit, but yeah. All right. So you obviously have a ton of homes going on. How do you evaluate? Well, first, where do you go where the business is? I mean, how do you evaluate if you decide I want to go find a flip? Where do you go? How do you decide?
So I've got a guy on my team that's a marketing guy. He is sending out around 2,000 mailers a week.
To your friends, 2,000 a week.
We've got
These postcards, letters.
they're a combination. There's a company that a guy I went to college, or he was a couple years behind me in my fraternity. He reached out to me, and they've got this machine that has like 5 pens.
Yep.
And it hand writes them.
Yep.
And they just cycle through. And it's like $1.30 a mailer for those. The ones that I do are a little cheaper.
Like landed?
Yeah,
with
like landed
postage?
with postage landed. The ones that I do are about 60 cents. I buy all of my stamps for under 40 cents.
How do you do that?
You can find them on eBay.
Hilarious.
So they're usually about 36 to 37 cents. And you don't think about that, but it adds up really quick. Like buying a
When
stamp
you're doing 2,000 a week,
Yeah.
it kind of starts to add up.
it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. And you're hitting people as many times as you can. You send the mail, you make the phone calls, you go door knocking, you go just get in front of these people. And eventually you're the person that, just like being an agent for somebody, the more times you talk to them, the better it is. So we do that. We find the property. Now I'm walking into a property.
So I want to ask real quick.
Yeah.
Are you picking a geographic area in farming, or are you identifying houses and mailing to specific addresses?
So both.
Okay.
I blanket areas.
Yep.
And then we do driving for dollars. You also probably seen Luke around the office. He does that for me. He'll drive around a neighborhood, and like we're hitting Whispering Hills really hard right now. Free Fall, stuff like that. And we are finding, hey, here are the 100 houses that have hate to say it, 1950s Cadillac sitting in the front yard, landscaping's overgrown, the
Yep.
white curtains in the front window.
Yep.
And the roof looks like it's been leaking for 15 years, And so you're trying to target those homes. It's not always the ones you buy, but those are the most likely the ones that are either vacant or possibly a rental, or just somebody that's elderly, that the amount of people that we've bought, because we've hit them at the right time, that they need to move into a home and they need cash right now because they got to get into a home. And that's how you.
Do you find that's the best prospect, if you will, or the
I probably would say the most homes that I've bought over the years is from probates. Somebody's died and they've kept something in a drawer with all these letters that they're getting. And I mean, I've heard it multiple times before. You sent the most letters, we're giving you the first shot.
Interesting.
But I mean, that's how you get there. But once you get to the houses, then
But you got that because you identified it likely, or you looked at, it's been a one owner for 40 years, things like that.
Right. Yeah. One owner. If I try to, and I've had to adjust this for neighborhoods. For instance, we used to do 10 years. If they bought the house at least 10 years ago. So now that there's some equity here, even for what I can buy it for, there's a lot of equity.
Right.
But there's other neighborhoods right now that 3 years ago, I'd buy a house today that would have been the renovation cost 3 years ago. Like Madison, that place went nuts last year.
Yeah.
Went absolutely bonkers and probably went up 40%.
1 year.
1 year. Yep.
All right. So we find the people. How do you evaluate? Is this the right flip? I mean, is it basically purchase price, improvement, sale price, and what are the other unknowns?
Your financing is a big thing.
Financing.
I use private money or my own money, and private money costs a variety of different costs.
Sometimes you hear called hard money.
Hard money, yeah.
Yep.
It's hard money.
Yep.
I don't really use the bank financing on this.
Okay.
When we're doing bigger projects, is when I'll do.
Don't you think
financing.
around 7 points is about the number? 10%, 7 to 10.
It's I'd say 10 to 12 is more. And you have to be careful with it. You need to have the right title attorney to do this, because there are people out there that are getting sued for usury because the legal amount of interest that you can charge in the state of Tennessee is 7.25. So if you look at my properties, ever since that came into effect, we've switched to a JV agreement with a promissory note.
See. All right. Who do you use for title?
I use Tennessee Title and Escrow. I was at Silver Point for years. That's Trey Kane. He's really an investor for
Tennessee Title, Chris Milley.
No, Tennessee Title and Escrow affiliates off of Gothic in Franklin.
Okay. JV agreement, a promissory note. All right. Well, I'm making notes too, friends out there. So if you see me typing away, that's what's happening. And then what other things for codes and city stuff do you have to consider? Is it a nightmare on the reno side, different than new build?
It's not terrible. Once I get all my funds secured and everything's done, say I'm not closing for another 30 days, I go ahead and pull the permit. And then usually by the time it's closed, I have a permit in hand. It takes about 30 days for the city to get a reno permit in. If you're not doing
But you go ahead and start.
I just start the process to pull the permit.
Okay.
And just to get that going down the line. It used to be you go downtown, hand the stuff over, and you walk out with your permits.
Yeah, that was cute.
It's different.
Yeah.
And it's taken some adjustment, but I don't really do additions. That requires surveys and all of the different things the city's going to want you to do, because their first answer is always no.
Really?
Always is no.
To add
it's an R8 lot. Can I build 2 houses on this?
Okay.
You probably need to go talk to somebody else.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I know I can.
So most of your work, you're not adding footage. It's really just reno the space.
I convert garages.
Convert garages. That's fine, but that's not adding footage.
I'm not changing
footage to.
I'm not changing the footprint.
Not changing the footprint. That's been your process. You stick
Yep.
with that. So
I
that's
can
one
get
of your
in and
things
out.
in an evaluation.
Yeah, I can get in and out.
All right. So what's an average timeline for an in and out? I know that varies wildly, but in the stuff that you do.
So 2019, we did one with permits in like less than 60 days or before COVID.
Yep.
And now, I mean, I've been on it's been like 10 months. Like when COVID, like the inventory stuff was bad, it was about 10 months. 10 months to a year. And then now I'm back on track to probably be like a 4 to 6 month renovations.
Really?
Yeah. So it's getting better. The supply chain's getting better. Also, people are learning how to deal with the supply chain, because for a while, you order windows, they were there in a week. Now you order windows, if you get white windows, it's 4 to 5 weeks. You get black windows, it's 10 to 12. And that's just like your simple stuff. And so you've got to order windows pretty much when you go under contract to be able to have them there in time for the construction. And that's where it was just screwing everything up. The houses would just sit because you got framing done, you're waiting on framing inspection. You really don't want to keep moving without windows. You get all your MEP in, and then it was
your what in?
mechanicals, electric and plumbing.
Okay.
Get all that stuff done and approved. And then sometimes you're still waiting 3 weeks for windows because you don't want to put drywall in. So that's been a little stressful, and it's also dealt with design. Like there's times that I want to put black windows in, but I don't want to sit here with my interest bell ringing for 12 weeks waiting on black windows. So, all right, I'm going to go with white. I'm going to completely change the whole entire look.
Is windows sort of a must in a reno? I mean, people don't want old windows.
Well, and the other thing that I should hit on, I'm usually focusing on like 1970 ranches, 60s ranches.
Okay.
And so you're every now and then there's new windows in these houses, and I can keep it every now and then. We had one, the one I sold on Brewer had, windows that were a year old, and every now and then you get a roof that's okay.
Okay.
Usually it's not a good color. Like I had a brand new green roof.
Yeah. That's not bad.
I kept it, and I just put the design into it because when you can save a couple $1,000s, great.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can integrate that into a lot of things. All right, let's talk about the pink tile. Do we ditch it or keep it?
I think if you have, so we talked about this at a house that I just did in Madison. It had a pink tile bathroom. I decided to get rid of it because we went super modern. I think you're gonna have some pictures.
I am.
We went super modern on this one, but I think if you keep one tile like that, it's okay. But if you've got to change the plumbing, you got to rip it out anyways. And that's where a lot of people, like, I'll forewarn you, if you see original tile, if you see painted paneling, if you see, there's all types, like, you can't get to the electric with the paneling that's still up. So when I know I'm gonna have to redo the electric, if it was built before the 1980s, you're pretty much redoing the electric. Like this was all panel.
Put some lights off here so we can see a little better than
Don't
here.
mind, this was, I forgot that the lady was in the.
What's that?
This was,
lady sitting there.
yeah.
This is my favorite listing appointment. Don't get up. I'll just press on our third copy series.
This is 102 Diane Court. It closed a month and a half ago.
See what I can do on
So
this.
some people are painting paneling, calling it renovate. More than likely, I'm not saying always, that electric behind that wall is probably the old cloth covered electric, and it's not safe. And when you call it fully renovated, I don't always agree with that. You might have changed the box out, but you might not have changed the wires. And so obviously ripping that out, and it's just a tail for a fully renovated.
So this view in Madison, got pine paneling.
Pine paneling, this one was a piece of mail. The guy had, the son of the lady reached out to me. She was moving into a nursing home. They needed to move quick, and they needed cash quick. And so
It's a 4.2, 1659 square feet.
there was a 600 and something square foot garage, or 700. It ended up being like 2350. There was a huge garage that I converted into the master and laundry.
Okay. So you buy this thing for 240 and 21.
Yep.
Yep. You list it for 700.
7.
A year later, and you sell for 725.
Mhm.
See what he did. Well, the kitchen's very nice. I hope you kept the floor plan.
Yeah, the kitchen was great. Let me tell you.
So, yeah, the old entry living room,
Yep.
beds for the header and the opening.
Yep.
And what I call this, man, is MrVaultMyCeiling.com. This guy is the master of vaultmyceiling.com, and it makes all the difference. And for those at home, you're seeing this photo's a little bit sharper because our projector, I think, is in need for a new bulb. But tell us what you did here.
So on this one, if you look above at the refrigerator, there's a little right here.
Yep.
Little notch. Keep going up and go to the left. Other left.
Right here.
This little notch.
Yeah.
So when I always vault ceilings, always. It's expensive. It's not terribly expensive, but you always get 3 or 4 times the value of that vault because it just changes the whole look of a ranch house. This one, I bought the lumber when it was at 1,500, like the peak of lumber. It cost me like $25,000 to vault this ceiling, where usually it costs me like 10. But there were so many hips, and that was the problem. Usually you can come up, if it's a 2x4 or 2x6, you've got to get a 2x8 up there to for coats. And then you run a massive LVL through the middle, and then you just tie everything to it, and you're good to go. But this one had so many hips. Instead of doing that, we had to build a roof underneath the roof. But in my opinion, it's the most important part of these old ranch houses is vaulting the ceilings.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that ROI is strong here.
Yeah.
What do you do on the walls?
Walls, that is my project manager is from Ireland, and all they did was stucco houses. So that is a stucco concrete finish that we did. I did that whole back wall, the fireplace, that was just a brick fireplace. We opened up the other side of the fireplace. It's not functioning, it's just there. And kept the fireplace intact just because I thought it was a good feature for the modern.
Sconces here? Is that what these plates are?
They can be sconces. We ran electric to it. I didn't want them up there. My designer did, so I compromised. That was a coat closet. The air return is actually in those cabinets, like on the side of the wall. Yeah, so we had to like cut it in, but I think just having like a feature. We had another coat closet. There's no need for 2. Let's turn it into a bar. Kitchen. I use floating shelves on pretty much everything on uppers. I think it looks amazing. And from a cost perspective, like cabinets have gone up 40% in the past couple of years. White shaker cabinets would cost, in that kitchen would cost me installed $8 to $10 grand, where they used to cost me like 5 to 6. And now I am getting discounted prices because I have the return customer and all that kind of stuff. But I use
even like under consideration of like waterfall edge, things like that. Not necessary.
I mean, I'm doing one in Creve Hall that I just picked up the quartz yesterday. I think it's a price point. Like for Madison, I knew the market was going really well in Madison. It had climbed a ton. Like this was going to be a rental for me at the beginning. And then I saw some stuff happening in Madison when I was in the demo period. And I was like, all right, I'm going to ramp it up a little bit. And so we ramp it up a little bit, but I didn't want to go too crazy with like waterfall because am I going to get that return out of it?
Yeah, you did this nice
subway tile. I use subway tile on everything. Just rearrange the design.
Vertical.
Yep.
Yeah, lighting. Functionally, I can't stand floating shelves, but especially if that's all that's there. But I love that you did these pull-out drawers.
Yeah.
And that, if y'all are renovating or doing your house, like that's the way to go.
Yeah.
Pots, pans, everything to go in the pull-out drawers. All right. Anything else you want to tell us about this one other than a ridiculous smashing success?
That was the best one I've ever done.
As far as return.
Yeah, as far as return goes, I mean, I've lost money on some of them. You're even on some of them. You win on some. It's just part of it.
Yeah.
Obviously, the past year has been phenomenal because if you bought, literally the appreciation was beating your interest costs. So the longer it took, the more you were making. Which is a weird place to be in, is running a business. That is now ended. I actually had to do a price reduction on one in Bordeaux.
You did?
Oh yeah.
Oh, no.
But I always try to be in these houses where I can at least rent it. If it doesn't sell, I can rent it. And I work off of a 20% margin.
That's what you try to hit.
At least 20. If it's a 45, 60-day flip, maybe I'll go a little lower. If it's going to be a longer one, I'll go a little higher.
And that's all in with finance costs.
Finance costs, agent fees, taxes, insurance, designer, staging, the whole thing.
All right, how do you manage the money?
In what regard?
Who's doing the bookkeeping?
Oh, I have a bookkeeper. I changed that this past year. Me chasing down guys on Fridays or dropping off checks downstairs and people showing up and then they get mad because it's closed. We closed early. I have a bookkeeper that runs everything down to somebody goes to Home Depot and on my pro account spends $22 and they put a job name on it. She enters it into a budget. She sends me that every single week so I can see where I'm at so that I'm not spending 2 days a week paying people, budgeting, keeping up with everything. She's handling all of that. And then I just get to look at it.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah. The pro account, thank you for not using that. It's fantastic, even if you're just a homeowner.
Yeah.
Because people can go to Home Depot and they'll pick out the stuff. They'll go to check out the pro desk. You'll get a text that they're at the pro desk. You can click on the link. You can see the itemized receipt, and you can just hit one and it'll pay your card on file. And it'll put a job on.
They do it with Lowe's. They do it with everybody. It's life-changing. Because, I mean, as you could probably imagine, in some scenarios, there's a language barrier, and I don't know what the guy's paying for. But if I can see what he has, then we can run it through that. And then get yourself a project manager to buffer yourself even further. But let me see.
Got a question here. Discuss the promissory note needed for novices due to the high interest due to hard money rates being over 7%.
So what we do is a promissory note for 7.25%. Trey writes everything up. And then we do a JV agreement for whatever the additional per diem. So I pay a lot. I pay 12 and 3, but I want my guys, when I say, hey, here's the deal, thank you for the money. Like I don't want to have to like, so I pay 12%, so 1% a month, and I pay 3 points for the money. But it's broken up into a 7.25 promissory note, and then the other whatever percentage, 5.5%, 6%, is now into a JV agreement, and it's on a per diem. So if I say this project's going to take 180 days and it takes 187 days, well, there's a per diem for that 7 days, and it goes both ways. And it was just a way for us to get around this. There was a couple guys that we had worked with that, you know, they had agreed to prices, and I got on the bad side of, not on the bad side, but there was a bankruptcy and stuff got involved, and it just got complicated. And so this is the way we decided to run with it from here on out. And it just makes so much more sense.
Yeah.
And if anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out. I can send them something.
All right, question. When you say 45 to 60-day flip, does that include the 30-day permit wait time?
Those are the ones that I'm not pulling permits on because I'm going to do a rental. I'm not adding square footage. I'm not changing bathrooms. I'm going in, I'm putting new cabinets in, painting, redoing the floors, and moving. Yeah.
Like it. All right. Do you hire an architect for plans?
Sometimes.
Okay.
I've got a house in 12 South coming up. I hired an architect. My designer will do a CAD drawing for all the other ones. And then we have, if needed, we'll have an engineer come in to, you know, if we're vaulting a weird ceiling, we'll have an engineer come in to verify or verify something that could possibly be structural. Because when I'm buying these houses, you know, I will walk into a house and that's my inspection.
Yeah, they're not.
And it's sometimes so loaded down with stuff that I've got to do an estate sale, and they leave it. Like I found $5,000 worth of gold in a record player once. Yeah, they just literally left.
You're there for that day.
Yeah,
For the cleanout.
I was there. I'm always there for the clean out day because you never know what you're gonna find.
Yeah, for sure.
And I mean, you know, and it's kind of sad. Sometimes there's like World War II memorabilia that people just don't care about anymore. Medals, had Purple Hearts, just weird stuff. But I forgot where I was going with that. Architect, yeah. And my designer will come in. We'll come up with a plan. And she will put together the plan after we had walked through it and kind of see like, hey, we're gonna take this wall out, we're gonna move this. A lot of those ranches have those garages off the sides or did, and they've been converted into like a drop down bonus. So now I bring the floor up, vault the ceiling up, and then that's my master. Sometimes they're a little smaller.
Get rid of the glass windows, walk out, make it just part of the home.
Make it part of the home, maybe put a transom window above the bed. And
Does that become the primary suite?
always, it's on the opposite side. Yeah,
Yeah,
always.
because there's always typically plumbing in there too.
Yeah, it's usually the laundry room.
Right. So
But-
turn that into that, or how do you?
We lift the floors up, like my personal home, I live in, right now, I've been in Caldwell Hall for 6-7 years. And it's one of those smaller 1-car garages, but I made it work with a master. And so there was a laundry and you just continued the plumbing holes. Usually you're replacing all the plumbing anyways. And so you're just rerunning it and then draining it back out.
What about electric? Do you strip it all?
I strip everything.
Everything.
I used to
To the studs. Take it
the
all.
studs all the way down.
Does crawl space height have any influence on your reno?
Yes. I've got one coming on Joyce Circle in East. And when you looked, we opened up the crawl space. Obviously, I'm not going in a crawl space. I rarely do. I will sometimes, but I'm too big.
Yeah.
And I opened up with my project manager. I was like, oh yeah, there's like 19 inches. It's fine. Well, it quickly,
That's at that part. Then
it quickly rose. And so where we were going to save these cool old hardwoods, we had to cut them out, cut the floor out,
You had to get to the crawl through the.
get to the
house.
crawl through the house, and then you got to come back over it. And so you have unexpected costs like that. That's part of it.
Yeah.
But that's why you're buying the way you're buying. And you know, some people get mad, but when there's no commissions, I can close in 7 days.
There's risk that people, like, they think it's predatory, and it's like,
It's-
actually.
And I'm happy to go list I always offer, I will list your house too. But if you need this service, I can close on this house in 7 to 14 days. I just had my inspection. I'm good to go. Here's the price.
Is there any contingency on that purchase?
If I need something looked at, I'll put something in, but most of the time there's not.
Okay.
And you've got to get aggressive with these because there's 14 other wholesalers behind you that are coming in to
That if
get it
you're
under
in with
contract
them,
and then,
calling them,
and then they're going to sell
They've been watching Jeopardy and seeing the home buyer.
That's right. That's right.
All right, Dana says, I'm wanting to rent over my house, my own home and keep it. Are there builder developers willing to come look at the property to give a ballpark estimate on what a larger reno would cost, or do you require full plans to be drawn up first?
I would have plans drawn up first. I will go ahead and say this. I used to do some custom work. I will never do it again. He's tried to get me to do his ceilings for 2 years now. I won't do it. It's just not my niche.
You might see it.
What, vault your ceiling? You said that.
Yeah.
Well, he's trying.
Yeah.
But there's a happy medium. I've got some contacts if anybody needs it.
Great, she would ask that.
Um,
So, we'll share
'cause
those out to you, Dana.
You've got the guys that renovate and then you've got the guys that do the custom, and that's just a different mindset, a different set of skills.
Yeah.
So,
Cool. And we'll get some, we'll put on the Facebook some of the references of people that he's willing to share that.
Yeah.
Yes, so you know, this is good. Biggest issues you run into in renovations,
materials,
shortage of materials,
lead times, just screws everything up. Managing the site and making sure people are showing up. I have installed Rio Links. It's a camera that's satellite, it's $20 a month.
real links.
Rio Links at every one of my job sites, and I can literally talk through it and can see if somebody shows up at 10.
Down
And
to the satellite, and that's what we need. So you
Yeah,
have Wi-Fi on
right.
that site, so.
And you know, the amount of dumpsters, I calculated it last year, I spent about $10,000 in other people's trash. People will literally move out of an apartment and throw everything. They never throw it in the dumpster. They just throw it all around the dumpster. And the dumpsters are running about $750 for a 30-yard per dumpster. And then it's about $8 a day after 30 days. And so maintaining the job sites and just keeping that's the stuff that I run into. Other issues that you run into, before I even start anything on the houses. I get it checked for termites at every single time. And if they have termites, I remediate it because it's just going to be something that you start, it gets worse and worse as you go. On basement houses, I dig out every one of the houses all the way down to the footers because it's going to leak. A basement house that has not been sealed is going to leak no matter what.
What are you sealing with that works? Because everybody.
There's all types of different materials, but it's essentially we paint it with a dry lock on both sides.
Yeah.
We put this like black tar.
Yeah.
We put a tarp of some sort, just a, can't think of it, a barrier.
Yeah.
Gravel it, pipe it, run it all the way out the back, and then fill it all back in. Yeah, yeah.
No matter what that's basement you're digging.
I'm digging it out.
Okay. Is it cheaper to renovate or build new? I mean, on a price per foot basis.
So, in my price per foot is going to be different than a lot of people. I mean, I can renovate a house in a smaller house is going to cost more per foot because you still got to have a water heater, you still got to have electric. A bigger house, 2,000, 3,000 feet that has a lot of bedrooms. I love bedrooms. I love bonus rooms because that's the cheapest square footage to build. There's nothing to it. And you still get the value. I would say when I'm running a deal, like depending on what finishes I'm going to do, I'm usually around 100 to 120 a foot when I'm renovating. So when it comes to that, yes, it's going to be cheaper. Other contractors might see it differently, because there is a lot more headache when it comes into renovating, but
you really got to look at it because most of the builders that, they'll say it's cheaper to scrape it a lot of times.
Right.
And it is to try to retrofit, make this thing into, a silver part love it, just scrape it if they'll allow it.
and that's where like the ranches, I think they're fine. When you get into some of these old cottages, I bought one in Chattanooga a year ago. Okay, a year ago last week, we were still in frame. It would have cost a lot. It would have been a lot cheaper to just completely scrape it. Because every time, we thought the day the framing inspection, we'd finally gotten through it. He walks up on this front porch, and this house was built in like 1905. It's in Southside, awesome walk. It's like a 12 South neighborhood. He's walking up on the front porch, and the whole front porch has completely caved in on itself. And then all around it, moisture in the beam and stuff you would never be able to see unless something like that happened, and it just keeps happening. So it depends on what kind of status the house is in. I mean, I've walked in, you wouldn't believe some of the way people live in this city. And I walk into it, like we walked into one a couple weeks ago that probably had 1,000 dog droppings in the basement. I've seen people that haven't had water or power for months living in the house, using buckets as toilets. But those are the ones I got to buy because they can't put it on the market. They can't do it. Like it's going to get condemned if they try to put it on the market. And so I can come in and, as they say, polish the turd,
Sure.
But yeah, I would say per the neighborhood.
Got it. Questions? What do you want to hear? Or at home online?
Are you using a database as far as mailers or like just using CRS?
You'd have to talk to Luke for that, but yeah, we keep it up with Excel. And I've got a multiple, if y'all called my village phone, Sideline is an amazing app. So it can separate your personal cell phone from your work phone. And then I have a thing called Call Rail that is on all of the letters, and every neighborhood has a different phone number. So when that phone number calls, it goes to Luke's phone because he's taking all of this. He's not a licensed agent. That helps a whole lot. Because when I'm there, if they call me, hey, I'm a real estate agent, there's a lot of people that are scared of real estate agents that I'm dealing with on this. So he can have the conversation with them and then bring me in when he gets everything comfortable. Because the first thing I have to do is say, hey, I am a licensed real estate agent. I just want to let you know, but I'm also an investor. But Call Rail, and you can pay for as many numbers as you want. So every single one of my mailers that goes to a different neighborhood has a separate number so I can keep up with and track. Hey, I sent out 2,000 this week. How many phone calls did I get? And usually that number a couple of years ago was like 100. Now it's like 5. So, and I know, and other people are probably sitting there like, well, there's other ways to direct market. And that's fine. This is just what I found effective, because the people I have bought houses from that do not have a cell phone. If they do, it's not a smartphone. And so social media is, to me, just doesn't work for this. For the houses that I want the worst house in the best neighborhood, the absolute worst house. I actually bought one for my personal home. I don't know if y'all saw that one on Waldkirch, but I bought that one, and that is the worst house, believe me.
It is. What percentage of properties do you end up holding long-term, David?
I will buy, Nashville's been too good lately that I've sold a lot of them, but in Chattanooga, we're trying to buy about 1 a month. Your cost down there is completely different. You're buying houses for $40,000, $50,000, maybe $100,000, and putting 30 in them, and they're fine. So we try to buy about 12 a year, but sometimes that's 6. Just depends on what you find.
Is there an inherent cap, just as what as far as what you're looking for? If you're not getting close to that 20%, is that more something that you
Not necessarily. The rental, like I want to use bank financing because I got to get this private money closed out to roll it. So I got to roll it into bank financing. And if it's not we use Pinnacle. If it's not at a debt coverage ratio of 1.25, so say we're in at 100, if it's not renting out for 1,200, they don't want a lot of it, and because I'm trying to not come out of pocket as much as possible. Because the less I can come out of pocket, the more I can buy. So, you buy a house for 50, you put 50 in it, and it's worth 160. All I need is a loan for 120, and so, but it's written for 1,500 a month. So now I've got a 1.25% debt coverage ratio per month of the rental, and then I'll just rent that one out for forever. Because once we rent them, we don't sell them. Anything else?
It's your chance. What
Anybody?
neighborhoods you like outside of Madison?
Do what?
What neighborhoods beside Madison do you see this?
I think Whispering Hills is going to be.
Where is that?
So it's Creve Hall-ish. They changed the school zone a couple years ago, and it used to be Creve Hall, Caldwell Hall, Whispering Hills. Well,
Caldwell was
north of Harding. That's where I live right now.
Yeah.
And now they jumped it. They changed some of the schooling in Whispering Hills, and they grabbed a portion of it and put them in Creve Hall Elementary
Whispering was on the other side
of Edmondson, and it skyrocketed that area.
The houses tend to be a little smaller.
They are. They're smaller in Whispering than they are, but some of them have big lots.
There's always the big distinction. As soon as you cross,
Yeah,
there's a different ballgame.
right. I think there's a high-end market right now that is very doable, just strictly because there's such a big spread in a 2,800 square foot house in Oak Hill and the 6,000 square foot house. And there's somewhere in the middle there that nobody's really done it yet. That 2,800 for 2.2, like, is that a possibility? And so I think
school enough, I think the answer is
that's
yes.
right. And then I think Bellevue's blowing up if you can get in.
Yay, Bellevue.
And then I think any of these little towns, Kingston Springs, anything around the lake, Murfreesboro, any of those are great. But you have to, like, if I was to get some stuff in Murfreesboro, I would build a whole new crew for that. If I'm south of 840, I'm going to get a whole new crew, because when you've got 6 or 7 projects going on, you can't have your guys going everywhere because you're going to get nothing done. And so I try to stay Madison, Franklin, Bellevue. I've done some in Antioch, but it's just a tougher market, in my opinion. So I like anywhere there's a 1965 ranch. That's what I like.
And brick,
Brick, yeah.
strictly brick.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, if we change some stuff around, like we've got a cottage on Joyce Circle that it was a metal sided house that looks great, and we'll just put some like wood shake or something up.
What materials and trades are you finding the hardest to deal with right now?
Electricians and plumbers, they are calling it rising costs, when actually stuff's starting to come back down. And, I used to be able to get plumbing done or electric done for $3 to $4 a foot.
Okay.
I get quotes now $8 to $10 to $12 a foot. So you wonder why these prices are going up on all these houses. It's because these trades, people are paying. I mean, I had somebody come in here yesterday or last week and they said, "Is 100 a board for drywall, like bought and hung, a good price?" I said, "I get it for 40. So these people will pray, like if the end of your neighborhood has a hill in it or a mead,
Forget
it's they see dollar signs. And so,
it. I have a buddy, he spent $400,000 just on concrete to build his contemporary.
yeah.
400 G's.
And people will just, and if they say yes, like the thing is, you never agree with a contractor at first. Never. They will always come down. Always. And then once you get if you got into this business, once you get some guys that are good, usually it's automatic. Like I don't even ask for bids for everything anymore, because I know this guy's going to do the best work, maybe not for the cheapest, but if he's pulling permits, it'll get done. He's not going to complain until he gets permits, because I'm not going to pay him until he gets his permits. You pay somebody without getting permits once, you won't ever do it again, because you'll never see him again.
Really?
Oh yeah, you got to hire somebody else that can take over their work.
That's the key.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great piece of advice.
Yeah, people that you owe money will answer their phone every single time. People that owe you money won't ever answer your phone.
That's interesting to know.
Yeah.
You were over seeing what they red flags, like
I've dealt with, I'll have a structural engineer come in and sign off on stuff. If there's a foundation issue, I have dealt with one before, but it was a crawl space, so we poured new footers. But when you're on a slab, it gets difficult to deal with the foundation issues. But the biggest tell on that is you look at your door frames walking through the house, and you'll see them like tilted, because you can paint up a crack and hide a crack, but you might not be able to. You can't lift the framing back up.
Is there any other, I mean, that was just like a rough one. Is there anything else that's kind of like a red flag or just like really?
I would say it's not a red flag. It's just if you were going to pay $225 for a house, now you might only pay $200. Like we've walked in a house where it was completely covered in mold. Like the whole entire HVAC line was still running, but it was throwing mold to the point where like I couldn't walk in there. And we ended up getting it and just having it all remediated, and it was fine. But I mean, it was bad. That was scary. I've had somebody die in a house, and I was on my way over there. There's just, so many different things. And that kind of stuff, like now that you have that knowledge, people are going to ask you. They ask me that all the time. But when I guess there's been a couple houses, we did one in Chattanooga that the whole entire front of the house was leaning forward, like sunlight coming through. And it was easy because you just cut it off where it was bad and then rebuild it. But I bought that house for $12,000. So
It's hard to get hurt on that.
yeah, it's hard to get hurt on those. That's the beauty of Chattanooga. If y'all are interested in getting started, that's a good market.
You like that?
I love that.
I showed this, just we'll wrap up here. This was a house that I saw recently, and I thought they did an incredible job from concept to execution. And again, this projector with that lighting is hard, but
Is that on Harding or on Franklin Road?
I think this is,
Franklin?
is it? I think it is.
Yeah.
They did another one on,
They didn't want battery too.
yeah, this is, the other one they did was on battery, I think, but
It just came back on the market last week.
for $6 million, $3 million foot. My buddy sold it for 3.2, and it's this other build that they did. It looks very similar. There it is.
Yeah.
It's just the same thing, but stretched out.
On the Baromus Loop.
That was on Battery Lane. They sold for 3.4, and now it's up for 6.9. I think it's already in contract. But I thought there were some cool things that were done in this house finish wise. This kitchen's a little bizarre to me, but I I think it lasts upstairs into that area.
Yeah, it's great.
You know, I just think this use of finishes is really, a lot of people are going for that. A lot of people are putting natural wood on the exterior, the wood shutters, the barn look type thing to do that. I mean, are you over that? Are we over white houses and gray houses? Where are we going?
I am doing more dark green. Some of it's going to be a little creamier colors, like where it's not just stark white.
Yeah.
I've got I'll stain some wood, but like, I just think that wood in 2 or 3 years,
It's trash.
it's trash.
It's totally trash.
And so why put that out there? And there's some certain people that realize that, and I think it deters people away. And so I think a clean metal look, or just a siding goes a really long way. But I'm into the black, dark. I
Are you
think
painting all the brick that you do?
paint all the brick I do. Unless it's like an old historic brick, I might keep it. Because I think that's
Thin
a,
bricks or the-
yeah. Or just something that, there was a house that we were trying to get that had brick from 1820s, that they had taken off of an old school building and then built the house out of it. And I would have left that, or painted part of it and left it. But I think you got to get creative on some of the exterior stuff, because especially now it matters, where 3 weeks ago, I feel like it didn't as much, 3 months ago,
Yeah.
it shifted. You got to have some curb appeal. Landscaping is a pain. If you're going to do this, go ahead and buy the soaker hoses and run it through your landscaping, because when it's 107 degrees outside and you're not watering it every single day, it will die. All of it. And buy your landscaping from Cedarwood Nurseries. It's in McMinnville. I bought 100 plants
Cedarwood?
for $1,200.
We did a complete renovation in our first home, and we got there.
Yeah.
The quote, we had a landscape architect come out. I think his quote for 22 trees down our driveway around the house was about $40,000.
Yeah.
So, mine was, got it all.
Yeah.
All ahead of time.
For like 10?
Oh, gosh, less than that.
Yeah. So like fountain grass out there, you go to fountain grass at Site One or Home Depot, it's $40, $45, $50. It's $7 for fountain grass this tall. So like, we've been putting a lot of fountain grass in. So whenever I have a farm out in Murfreesboro and I'm out there on the weekends, I'll take my trailer when I know I have a landscaping job and just go ahead and go pick everything up and bring it out.
But you can call them ahead of time.
They'll load it.
They'll have it there ready for you. If
Yeah.
they don't have whatever it is you're looking for,
Yeah.
All right, last thing, any tips, tricks, or vendors that you think we should be using that we aren't going to use and won't steal from you?
I am big on Opus cabinets.
Okay.
They are full service. If you go out and find a cabinet company and you got to find an installer, it's like $500 or $600, maybe $1,000 more to use them, but the time is night and day. I use Opus.
Are they flat pack and then they can bring, what's your lead time on cabinets?
It depends on what you order, 4 to 8 weeks.
Okay.
If you get something really high end, then you might be at like 10 to 12. Cabin Art, I think, is one of the people that they use, and they do really good with them. I mean, if people have questions about subs and stuff,
Yeah.
if I can help out a little bit. I try to keep my guys on my jobs though.
Of course, yeah.
So,
you have to. Some hands, yes.
Yeah.
Permitting and then getting approvals
Yeah.
on the way. And that's dragging out, or is that just?
It can be.
And I know you're working in different areas.
Right, and so it just depends. I mean, I think there are some things, that are taking forever. You deal with historic, you've got to go through all the historic inspections. You get, like, I'm about to start demo on mine. I just got my permit yesterday, and we have to demo it, shore it up, inspect it at rough framing, inspect it at final framing, and then get the city to come in and inspect it. That's all historic. So, yes.
Yeah.
But I'm also dealing with some inspectors that are new and don't understand renovations as well. If there's an existing window and all you do is change the window out, even though it's not to code now, like that house, that window could not be built you don't have to go out and cut out the brick 12 more inches to have the 24-inch opening. And I dealt with that on one recently that
Go past that grandfather.
it gets grandfathered in, but it takes them 2 weeks to move it up the line to say, hey, to the right guy, is this okay? And they're like, yeah, that's fine. They don't have to reconfigure the house for that window. Just because code changes every year and every couple of years. And so you have to keep up to date with it. And, overall, it's not bad. And a lot of the subs that you'll run into, it's like, they have a phone call, the guy comes out immediately and hits it. And if you can get those subs, they're worth a lot of money because they know that they can make a phone call and the guy will come check it out. I don't ask questions besides that. But yeah. And yeah, like I said, if y'all have stuff that I know this market is probably going to be more of the renovation period. You got a lot of builders starting to slow down, especially the big ones because of just the unknowns. So if y'all have stuff and bring it to me, I'm happy to run it. Don't get your feelings hurt when I say it needs to be at this price. But if you bring it to me, you can make a commission on the front and list it on the back end. So
You only do work for yourself.
I only do work for myself. Yeah, I did some custom work during COVID, and I'm still doing one of them. So that's 2 years.
That is fault still.
That's right.
That's not your point. Anything else, friends? Perfect timing, 11:29. Let's give a hand for Dallon. Thank you.
Well,
Sure. This is recorded, friends, and it will be posted as well. And for those out there in Zoom land, appreciate you being here. You all have a great day.